Halfday, good afternoon, everyone. Halfday, if I can have everyone's attention. Good afternoon. We are now resuming this public hearing. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to recess momentarily before we resume. So I'd like to call up the last members who were sitting at the panel. Forgive me, I don't remember who they were. But if you know who you are, please come back up so you can submit your testimony. And if that's it, I'll call up some more names. Julie Hartup, John Dell'osso, Greg Pangilinan, Jay Gutierrez, Manny Duenas, Michelle Vocolo. My friend, Mr. Robert Celestial, if you're here to testify. Paul, I apologize. Paul, I'm not sure if I know your last name. Paul Villanueva, Robert Ross, Patrick Atherton, all right, and we'll begin again from the left with Mr. Celestial.
Afade, Guausi Robert Namalik Celestial, greetings. I want to thank everyone that's here today, and it's not hard to confuse me. Really, it's not. However, I grew up here in Agania, behind the courthouse, and my brothers and sisters, and my cousins and my neighbors, we all fished in the 60s and 70s. We just walked down Agania. Mariana's Divers was up here in the corner. We used to get our little equipment, and we'd go out there and fish. And I remember even catching octopus. We'd get pandaletsi and just cook right there in the beach and eat. And we enjoyed that. And we'd even, when we got older, we'd go out over the reef, set net, spend the whole weekend out there and catch fish. But when my wife and I retired from the military, we came back in 1996. In 1997, I just wanted to go out there and bring my Hawaiian sling and go out there, and I couldn't find a fish. Everything was white, the coral was dead. I said, my God, what happened? And that was back then. And so I stopped fishing. But I tell you that because I found out about this public hearing today, and I'm hearing, professionals and experts and scientists and everything. But it reminds me, in 1994, when I did my research to 2000, and a lot of you know that about the nuclear fallout here in Guam. And it reminded me of those days when our government didn't believe what I was preaching about it. We were affected by nuclear fallout for many years. And I remember our congressmen and women and our governors and senators at the time didn't believe a word I was saying. The Atomic Energy Commission, which is now Department of Energy, hired 2 scientists. These 2 scientists wrote against my 4-page report about Guam being exposed to nuclear fallout because I was stationed in the Marshall Islands and I was affected, and I cleaned up that 43 nuclear bombs that was detonated out there in Inuitak. And so when these 2 scientists wrote about me and my claim that Guam was exposed to high levels of radiation, they wrote against that it was too far, nothing happened, people of Guam are safe. But then years later after that, the National Academies of Science invited me to go there and present our case. So the National Academies of Science found out that the evidence we had, those 2 scientists didn't have. So they determined that the evidence that I presented was correct, that Guam should be included in the radiation exposure compensation. I bring this analogies because of this issue right now, is because I hear both sides. One, that you wrote here that Guam's stock of certain species of fish is still declining in an alarming rate. And to me, this bill is blaming the scuba fishermen. Basically, that's what it's doing. Then I hear about Yamaha boats. I hear about net fishing, free dive fishing, rod and reel fishing. And then I hear the scientific evidence that they're bringing, that why that worldwide the other islands have went ahead and passed laws to prevent scuba fishing. As a Chamorro indigenous person of Guam, growing up fishing here in the island, and I understand that young lady that said that it's not indigenous to the people of Guam, that using scuba gear. We could read all the scientific data and everything and believe it, but really, what is the real issue here? Is the depletion of our fish. That's the real issue. That's why we're here. How do we prevent our fish from being destroyed, our coral being destroyed? I give you guys a lot of credit. You're highly intelligent, and to pretend that it didn't happen like back then when they said our nuclear detonations never reached Guam. It's almost like I'm sitting here listening to the same thing that they were telling me back then, is that no, nothing happened. But something is happening here on Guam about our fish. And I pray to God that we do attack the real issue. The real issue is that people are fishing illegally. People are taking more than what they're supposed to take. And that's the real issue. It seems like we use all the evidence about worldwide. Islands are using this, saying, hey, yeah, they banned it over here, that scuba fishing is really dangerous, it's depleting. But I don't think that's the real problem. I think you have the power up there, senators, to really attack the real problem, to really believe that here in our island that the true issue is that people want to fish for their livelihood. People are greedy, and that I just hope and pray that we do the right thing, is that maybe not only this bill, but pass another bill, regulate it, make the fines higher, hire more conservation officers like the young lady said. I believe that if we catch them and then we make an example of them, that most people won't do it. Say, man, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be fined $100,000. I don't want to go to jail for 10 years, right? But what's happening is that we only have, 5, 6 conservation officers? If one conservation officer meets 20 people out there, whatever nationality you are, he's not going to try and arrest all of them. He's probably afraid. I'm not saying they are, but it could be, And so I suggest that we hire more conservation officers, train them well, and educate the public. Educate the public, say, you cannot do this, somebody just told me you could just go down here in boat basing, and someone showed me pictures of coolers, hundreds of fish. And I said, how did they catch it? No ice on the coolers, nothing. And I said, my goodness. And he said it's a daily thing. Here on Guam, daily, thousands of fish being marketed. And here we are today talking about spearfishing. I speared fish at night because the fish are sleeping. It's hard to catch a moving fish, right? Common sense. That's why people fish at night. But I hope and pray that we wake up and really attack the main problem. and not pretend that something is not happening when something definitely is happening here on our island. And I thank everyone here today for coming out and expressing their expert opinions. This is just mine, and I hope and pray that we all do what's right and save our island. Save our island, and I hope that it's not an issue of Chamorro against Chamorro, you know, or from other nationalities. I hope and pray it's not going to end up like that. I hope that the laws that you guys pass may really benefit the whole entire island. So thank you, Senators. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Celestio. Sir, please introduce yourself for the record before you begin. Thank you.
My name is Robert Koss. I'm a freedive spear fisherman, 15 years freediving and 5 years spearfishing. And I noticed today here in this room, a lot of people are neither for nor against the bill. And I'm just going to keep it short, and I just want to address to them that if we leave here today and no act towards conservation for the future happens, then all of us in this room lose. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm usually used to introducing myself as an alcoholic, but but anyway, my name's Pat, and I'm a fisherman, and I've been fishing.
Please, sorry, your full name for the record.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry, I thought everybody knew.
I know you, but for the listening, I know you, but for the listening audience,
Oh,
please.
okay.
Thank you.
My name is Pat Atherton, and I'm a fisherman. I've been on Guam for 63 years. I've spearfished seriously here for more than 50 years. 30 years of that was as a nighttime scuba diver with lights and that. And in 1999, when they had the SPG, we were exposed to a whole different type of fishing when other teams from Tahiti, New Caledonia, and everybody came. And we realized that the way we were fishing was kind of girly fishing. We were going down, putting our gun 2 inches from a fish's head and shooting it. And imagine what kind of terrible dream that fish just had then. But to me, nighttime diving with scuba on a dark night was pretty much like Easter egg hunting. You could just, you find a fish, put your gun this far from its head, and shoot it. And that includes big fish like the tuhongs and tenkisons. So most of my friends are still, a lot of my friends are still night diving, so I feel kind of bad to come out against scuba fishing. I was hoping they would have all aged out, but I saw tonight some of them haven't, like that. But now that my daughter, maybe half of these people here dive with me. And then my daughter, my granddaughters now are free divers now. And if the fish were still plentiful like they were when I was tank diving, I wouldn't have no problem with it. But now the ocean is a desert there. Even if you're free diving, you have to get a lot of fish, you have to be able to go 60 or 80 feet, which I can't do, but I try. And to me, this is a step in trying to bring the fish back. If I had my way, I would recommend that you stop night diving completely. Because even free diving at night, you're still putting your gun an inch from the fish's head and killing it. And so, which really doesn't seem fair. You know, you can't hunt deer at night, and the deer are still moving around. We're going up the fish sound asleep, and we've wiped out, I'm sorry to say, but we wiped out a lot of fish when we were diving. So in the interest of my granddaughter being able to shoot a fish someday, I would like to see more conservation going on. And I was wondering if there was a way that the police have a police reserve that help them, volunteers. And I was wondering if agriculture could do something like that. Because when we're out trolling and diving and that, we run into people in the preserves all the time. But we can never get a response from anybody, mostly because they don't have boats, they don't have enough people. So I was thinking if we had a reserve, I know plenty of people that would volunteer for it, because the preserves really hurt the honest divers. They don't hurt the people that are doing it illegally. So the ones of us that don't want to break the preserve, and the ones that don't want to lose our boats and that, we don't go in the preserve, but we see people all the time. And not blaming agriculture, they're really understaffed. And I think I talked longer than I was going to. So for me, and Manny is my close friend, I've known him since he was a little boy. It was my brother. We did a lot of things together. But some we can't talk about. And then, yeah. So sorry, I don't even know what I said so far, but I just want to get the point that I feel bad that I'm going against my old diving partners and that, but there has to be a step started to bring in the fish back. And to me, the best way to bring the fish back is to stop nighttime at all, because then you could tell who's fishing illegally. Otherwise, you don't know if they're free diving, if they're tank diving. So that's what I would recommend. And I'll end for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry I went on too long.
No problem. Thank you.
And I had
Ma'am?
the bends 4 times.
Thank you. Ma'am?
My name is Julie Hartup. I am the Executive Director of Micronesian Conservation Coalition. I am a marine biologist and started MCC to help promote more research and outreach and education to marine biology and future scientists here on Guam. We are in support of the bill of 5335 in banning scuba spearfishing. We also, I submitted a written testimony, and so I'm not going to go through and read everything here, because I figure you can read it on your own time, and I want to allow time for others to speak. But I wanted to make several points. And the first one is that Guam has a very limited refuge habitat compared to other islands. So we don't have like these huge lagoonal systems, and because of our huge development in the 1980s, kind of booming with tourism, that we do have pollution that has happened and degradation in our reefs, as Whitney Hoot kind of brought to light with some of those statistics earlier. So what we do know is that we need these deep refuge areas, these natural kind of, you could say, preserves. And the problem is when you have scuba spearfishing, you don't have that deep refuge anymore for your larger fish. So I think that is a main point of why it is so important and why it's been so effective for fishermen using scuba spearfishing. There was 4 different papers that I've submitted within my written testimony that should help. The first one that I think is really important is by Gilbert and May in 2006. And there were 4 different points that I thought were very important. Whitney already mentioned that one of them was the complete ban on scuba spearfishing compiled with effective enforcement is the single most important spearfishing management measure. The second thing is spearfishing efforts must be managed with other forms of inshore fishing, since restricting one method can easily be transferred to a different small-scale fishing method. The third is scuba spearfishing eliminates nature, environmental deep refuge sanctuaries. And fourth, most specific islands have banned scuba spearfishing. Unfortunately, number 5 at this point, of all those countries banning scuba spearfishing, only 2 have adequate legislation. It is extremely difficult or impractical to collect the evidence required to prove conclusively in court that scuba was used to take fish. A much better approach is to ban the possession of scuba and spearfishing gear in the same boat or car. The second paper that I submitted is a background of scuba spearfishing by William Walsh. And in that, and he's from the Hawaii Division of Aquatic Resources in 2013. Walsh cited 29 different publications that address banning of scuba spearfishing as a key factor of fisheries management. Several of these sites mention Guam as an example of a collapsing fisheries due to multiple factors, but particularly due to no regulations with a major pressure resulting from scuba spearfishing. 50 scientists in that, marine researchers and resource managers testified in support of the Western Hawaiian banning of scuba spearfishing, with 0 within these professions testifying in opposition. The next two couple of papers, the third and fourth, are from Dr. Steve Linfield. He was actually here at the University of Guam as a visiting kind of partnership with an Australian university. He has 2 different papers that he did. And in what basically that research does is, first, it demonstrates how depth works as a refuge for larger fish. And 2, prove that there was less fish in deeper waters in Guam than in CNMI, where scuba spearfishing has been banned. MCC supports the bill 35, but suggests that the legislation include the banning of scuba diving equipment and spear gear in a boat or vehicle together. This is similar to California with banning of scuba gear for abalone fishing, where equipment cannot be in proximity of abalone shells empty or with meat present. By banning scuba equipment and fishing gear in proximity together in boat or vehicle gives the conservation officers the ability to enforce the law given to the reason why it was intended to do. Also, in my paper, in my submission, I submitted 5 different pictures of one night of catch was. This is in April of 2019. As you can see, there are a lot of fish. This is one night of fishing. As a quote from William Walsh, as I quoted earlier in one of the papers, it does not take rocket science to realize that we must ban the use of scuba with spearfishing. We can preserve Guam's natural resources without losing culture, food source, and recreation. We just need to put in regulations that are smart and effective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hafaday, good afternoon. My name is Monique Jennaromani. I've been a fisherman most of my life. I grew up on this island. I'm not indigenous, but Guam is my home, and it's the only thing I know. Pat Atherton, he's like my second dad. I grew up with him, and when we first started fishing, I wasn't allowed to get in the water because I was too young, but I was the boatman and would pick them up and see all the fish that they would catch. I'd be able to get in the water, but wasn't able to fish yet. And back then, there was a lot of fish. Finally, at age like 13, my brother told me, if you want to learn how to fish, you have to go and shoot a fish. If you don't shoot a fish, you're never coming with us again. I caught a small little juvenile fish, and he took it off and threw it in the water, and he said, no, you can't catch small baby fish like that. It was at nighttime, and I went back in, and there was a parrotfish that was sleeping in a hole, and I luckily shot it. At the time, I thought, luckily shot it. They still didn't want me tagging along because I was a girl, but my Uncle Pat took me under his wing and taught me. At that point, he no longer scuba spearfished at all. None of us did. A lot of people might say that we're hypocrites because, we grew up doing that, but I think that everybody has room to improve and learn from their mistakes. We didn't realize it was a mistake at the time. We didn't really know any better. There was probably about 6 boats back then when we did it, and Now there's hundreds of boats. There's a lot of spear fishermen on this island, including the boats that are going out every day, raping our reefs. I'm not saying it's a specific group, because I've seen locals fish in the preserves. I've seen locals go out and tank dive still. I think everybody in this room, I know the majority of the fishermen in this room, old and young, and I can honestly say that we all agree on one thing. We don't have as much fish as we did back then. And anyone that's saying that we do, they're lying or they're not fishing. Something has to be done. I'm not saying that this is a fix-all to ban scuba spearfishing or scuba fishing, period. It's not. There's a lot of things that we need to do, but it's at least a step in the right direction and a start. Since I've been fishing, I've also traveled around the world for fishing, representing Guam. For a long time, I was the only spearfisher woman that would go and compete off island. I didn't even realize how bad Guam was until I went to other places like New Zealand and, Yap and Rota and stuff like that, where how bad it was on Guam. Rota, which is 40 miles away, is abundant with fish, Saipan has way more fish than we do. Palau, I haven't been to Ponape yet, or Chuk, but the biggest thing I can say is when those teams came to Guam to spearfish here in competition, it was kind of embarrassing after going to their land and seeing how abundant it was. And you could say, yeah, like perfect example, New Zealand. It's a huge place, but everybody spearfishes there, everybody hunts. But their laws in place are way different than our laws here. Like I said, scuba spearfishing, banning it isn't gonna solve everything. And I think we're all in agreement of that. Night fishing, a lot of people aren't gonna be happy with me saying this, and I used to night fish as well. But something has to be done. Back when we were younger, I'm catching the same amount of fish as I was when I was 13 practically. The east side was loaded with fish when we were younger. And you hear stories from people's grandparents and fathers and everything about how they didn't even have to go over the reef before. And now you have to go over the reef. You can't catch fish inside unless you're catching them in Yahak. There's a lot of things that need to change, for sure. I think size limits, catch limits, permits, there's a lot of things that have been said today that we need to take into account, but those aren't the issues. Right now, the issue is tank diving, fishing. And I really believe that this is a very good step, and I really appreciate you guys for taking this seriously, because it's a serious issue. And it's gonna affect everybody on this island, because in 10 or 15 years, we are not gonna have any more reef fish. And then it's just gonna be a ripple effect. And everyone that's spearfishing the reefs are gonna start moving out and going bottom fishing. And then it's gonna be just pelagic fishing. And then we're just gonna be overfished, period. I just believe strongly about something needs to be done. I'm gonna have kids one day, and I hope they have kids, and I plan on living on Guam for the rest of my life. And if they don't want to live here, that's fine, but I want to teach them how to fish. And right now, you can't teach a kid how to fish here. There's no fish to catch. You go to New Zealand or another island where there's fish everywhere, you can take a kid and take them in the water. I'm trying to start a girls' spearfishing team, and a lot of girls don't even want to come out because they can't catch a fish. And that's really sad, because I had the best childhood in the world growing up, being able to go out and catch my own fish and being able to share it with my family and my friends. I've never sold my fish commercially, partly because I'm not good enough, but, you know, we need to be more conscious about what we're doing. And I'm sorry to the people that think it's gonna affect their businesses and stuff, but this is gonna affect our whole island if we don't do something. So if closing one business is gonna change this, then, you know, so be it, I'm sorry to say. But if something isn't done, we aren't gonna have any more reef fish, period. The last thing I just wanna say is I think a lot of this, it boils down to enforcement. You can pass this law today, or whenever you guys plan on passing it, but unless we have enforcement to enforce it, it's not gonna do anything, just like the preserves. There's a lot of people that don't fish in the preserves because we do respect that and we do see it changing, and it is changing. But people every day are still spearfishing and fishing in preserves because lack of enforcement. I'm not saying they're not doing their job, but it's hard to do your job when there's 6 of you for the whole island. I hope that we can all work together to try to help this out because it really affects everybody in this room. Whether you're for it or against it, if we don't do something, we're all gonna not have fish. And that's the bottom line. Education is key. I think we need to start teaching the younger kids this and showing them that, you know, if they don't do something in the future too and carry this on, then they're not gonna be able to fish either. There's a lot of kids here from UOG and the high schools and stuff that probably have never even been in the water. But I am in the water almost every single day, if not spearfishing or fishing, swimming. And it's my life. And it's sad to see the decline in fish so rapidly. And that decline also affects everything else. It affects our reefs. You know, it's a chain of life. If we get rid of our reef fish, not a lot of people realize how much that'll impact everything, our ecosystem, you know? So again, I appreciate you guys taking this seriously because it has been 9 years since the last time we had this and not very many people took it seriously. But now even the people that were against it are seeing that something is wrong. And I know everyone will at least agree with that in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, please introduce yourself first before you begin. Thank you.
Hafide Todes Hamzu, Na'an Husi Leilani Sablan. I'm a local biologist, freediver, scuba diver, and more recently I'm learning how to spearfish via the traditional method of freediving. I speak today in support of Bill number 53-35 to ban fishing via the use of scuba and similar devices. Spearfishing with scuba is a very efficient method for targeting reef fish in deeper waters. This poses a problem when we consider that deep depths serve as a refuge for fish. Thus, spearfishing with scuba threatens this refuge, a refuge that may help sustain fishery resources. A study conducted in 2014 illustrates the detrimental effects of scuba spearfishing on coral reef fishes. When compared to the CNMI, where scuba spearfishing has been banned since 2003, Guam showed reduced dominance of large-bodied herbivores and their declining average size, which is indicative of fisheries exploitation. In other words, we're seeing less fish and smaller fish here on Guam when compared to other places that have banned scuba spearfishing. The study also emphasizes the loss of keystone species in our reefs due to scuba spearfishing, such as the giant bumphead parrotfish. The large size of the bumphead parrotfish makes them a valuable catch for island communities, while their habit of sleeping in the reef in groups makes them highly vulnerable to nighttime spearfishing. During the 1980s, fishing for bumphead parrotfish on Guam took place at night using scuba. The catch was sold directly to hotels in the early morning and was largely unreported. The surveys conducted in the study did not detect a single bumphead parrotfish in the southern Mariana Islands, a finding consistent with other studies that have collectively surveyed virtually the entire length of Guam's coastline. These large schools of over 100 bumphead parrotfish were commonly observed around Guam before the introduction of scuba spearfishing in the late 1970s. Now, both adults and new recruits are rarely, if ever, observed. All in all, the analyses of the data in this study clearly demonstrated that scuba spearfishing has had a long-term and ongoing impact on reef fish communities in Guam, particularly affecting large vulnerable species. If our brothers and sisters in the Sinamai can ban scuba spearfishing to create a more sustainable future, why can't we? My only concern is how this ban will be enforced. It is difficult enough for conservation officers to enforce current laws, such as illegal fishing in MPAs, which I have witnessed countless times with the heavy heart. We need more eyes watching and protecting our reefs. The only way any of our environmental policies can be effective is if we can properly enforce it. So, Senators, I hope there is a plan to increase enforcement on island in the near future. I introduced myself as a local biologist, but I'm also just speaking out as a local who cares about her island and the resources that have provided for myself, my family, and my ancestors. I want to live to see a day when the reefs on Guam are restored, and I don't have to fly in a plane to dive in places like Yap and Palau to see what a healthy reef looks like. I want to be able to walk to the nearest beach, put on a pair of fins, and see our marine life thriving right here in my island home. And I want this for my future children too, and for generations to come. So, Sizos Maasi Senators for taking this step forward in a more sustainable future for Guam's marine life.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Gabriel Gerasa. I'm a freshman at UOG. I know that there is a lot of research regarding this topic, but I decided to take a more elementary approach. So, naturally, whenever we win something after working hard and trying our best, we feel good. Although as humans, the most intellectually advanced species on this earth, we create things that allow us to do tasks easily and at times with no effort. If we use these sort of things to get something, then eventually the reward would lose its value and cause us to want more and eventually get more, effortlessly. Fishing with scuba is a prime example. Since we are now able to breathe underwater and harvest for hours on end, any time of day, in deeper waters, where fish take refuge from predators, and at night when fish are most vulnerable, it becomes too easy to harvest. And because we are so advanced and use these things on such a delicate resource, reef fish, it creates an imbalance. And fishing with scuba is an imbalance in nature. Also, it's not fair for the less fortunate fishermen who rely on this resource for food. So it becomes a competition in many ways. And because scuba fishing is so easy, it takes away the fun and value of fishing. And soon the activity will go extinct because what we use is too advanced. But just like any other activity, what makes it fun, fair, and last for the future are rules, which is why we believe this bill is crucial for the average fisherman and for Guam. It's not against fishermen or fishing, it's simply against unsustainability. And this island needs its sustainability. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, before I call up the next panel, I'd like to thank you all for testifying, of course, and also recognize all my colleagues who've stayed with us. Tonight, I didn't really recognize everyone when we came back from the recess, but just again to thank Senators Therese Terlahi, Tello Taidegui, Regine Bisco-Lee, and Sabina Perez. Thank you all for your testimony, and I'd like to call up the next panel now. On the next panel, Mr. Manny Duenas, I called you earlier, but I'm not sure if you heard. You might have been outside. I want to make sure you have the opportunity. As well as, let's see, Rachael Jordan, Robert. I apologize, I can't read this. Lee Burgos, Michael Orr, Peter Auer. There's a Robert Hild, Felix Sasamoto, Cameron Valerio, Kennedy Tatum, Daleen Pangilinan, Andre Ekfadzi, Ashley Flores. Are any of those other names I called here? If not, I will proceed. Kyle Dahilig, Natasha Perez. Alexandra Zar, Christopher Conlu, Franklin Camacho, Sydney Prudenti, Xavier D. Guzman, Mike Jennaro, Pei Valerio, Jake Cabrera, Lucia Atienza. All right, if none of those, if anyone else would, oh wait, I do have another paper here, excuse me. Jonita Kerr, Vincent LaGuardia, Ashley Castro, Ferrand Tyron, Vanji Lujan, Ronald LaGuardia, all right, and we'll begin on the left with Mr. Dwayne. Please begin by introducing yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must request that I speak last. That's why I thought I was at the end of the list. I want to hear what everyone has to say.
Sure.
I'm digesting all this information. Thank you.
No problem, Uncle Manny, I got it. Hafa-day Senators and the people of Guam, my name is Rachael Jordan. I am the oldest daughter of Patrick Atherton. And I am also the safety diver for many of the women in this room who are free diving spear fisher women. Over the last 30 years, I have watched our ocean change due to overfishing. I support banning scuba fishing because I want my children to enjoy the same ocean I did as a child on Guam. By the age of 10, I was accompanying my dad, uncles, and godbrother on their scuba spearfishing night dives as a boatman. I would sit on the boat and watch and wait for them to surface. I had a couple of jobs. One of those jobs was to help them load their fish onto the boat. They would have stringers and bags full of fish, and if they killed anything really large, such as an atuhong, I would have to help them pull the fish onto the boat. I was certified scuba at the age of 12 and again at the age of 15. I started scuba spearfishing with my dad once I was certified. I was around 19 years old when my dad came home and said, "No more spearfishing, scuba for the family." He was impressed by the Tahitian spearfishing team and how they dove and fished without tanks. Really, that team, they showed us another way that we could fish within reason. Through time, growth, education, and experience, I have come to see the importance in conservation. I swim the ocean at least 3 times a week. I see the difference in fish populations based on the location of my long-distance swims. Gab Gab Beach is an example. I swam there today for an hour. It is full of marine life. I see schools of guili, tataga. I saw 4 turtles. I've seen rays and sharks. Almost every swim I go out. And this is because it's considered a preserve and is treated that way. A couple miles down the reef line, I can swim agate, and it is like a desert. There is little to no fish and little to no life. I still spearfish, I free dive. I am limited to the depth I can dive, and also due to my physical conditioning. I can't stay underwater for very long, but I still try. I am able to catch enough fish to feed my family or to share with my friends. I fish with discretion now. My 10-year-old daughter is now learning to free dive with me. She is starting to spearfish. I am teaching her to be an ethical diver. It is important for our future. I believe this bill is a good start towards conservation and protecting our resources. Scuba spearfishing allows a hunter to stay underwater for longer periods of time. It gives an unethical diver more time to collect fish and an unfair advantage in hunter versus prey. I am also licensed for hunting deer on island, and we can't do it at night. And I too believe that this bill could be expanded to ban scuba night spearfishing. The larger fish are critical to our ecosystem and for the reproduction of species. We must do something to protect these fish. There are other fishing methods that are detrimental to our fisheries population. I absolutely acknowledge that. For me, this is a start. To create positive change, we must start somewhere. Let this ban be the start. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Healy.
Hafaday, inaan husi ka dihilig. I dream of a future with clean air, water, and soil. And I know that to prepare for a future with clean air, water, and soil, we need to be guided by 3 principles: education, mitigation, and adaptation. I agree with the intent of Bill 53-35 to protect our marine life and repair our marine ecosystems. But we won't get to a future with healthy marine life if we do not have effective education at the business, school, and community levels. Every business, school, and community member should be reminded of our precious waters and endangered fish, such as permanent signs at preserves, information in our textbooks, or by word of mouth. At the same time, we must mitigate the amount of fish that is taken away from our waters, regulate the types of fish, the size of these fish, and the season of catch. And I learned about scuba spear fishing in my biology class, and my professor brought up an excellent idea. If you regulate the size of the fish that gets into the fish co-op and markets to a specific size, nothing too small and nothing too big, then the smaller fish would be able to thrive and the bigger fish would procreate more. And if you have an officer who checks out these markets and co-ops and find illegal catches, then they could be fined, and the business would turn down those who bring in fish that don't meet certain requirements. That would help with enforcement. Yes, pass the bill, but we can go a step further to regulate the markets. If there is no market value for the fish at a certain size, no one would kill for it. This bill is common sense, and I challenge you all to continue towards a more sustainable future. Andong Kaluna sa Zeus Masi, maraming salamat po, and kinisu.
Thank you.
Hello, Senators. My name is Michael Jennaromani. I've represented Guam a couple times now for micro game spearfishing, and been all around the world, seeing everyone else's ecosystem, and frankly is very jealous of what other countries have and the laws in place to protect those, and seeing firsthand how they work. I know it's no one ever wants new regulations and new laws, and everyone's always going to push back, but without them, we're not going to have fiestas with fish on the table. There's just my kids. Rarely do you have kids that want to do the same stuff that you do, and when you find something that you do together, and for me it's fishing, you want to protect that, and to take them out and not be able to find fish. I mean, I've done my fair share of tank diving at night, and I've seen the damage, and I can testify all day long that it's very easy. I've caught countless of tuhongs at night, and I've only caught one during the day. As far as tank diving, I got nothing against all the guys that do it. I just think diving at night is unfair. I like catching lobsters at night, but if we had a moratorium on no night diving at all, eventually you'll catch them during the day. It's New Zealand. They're just crawling all over the rocks, and it's I just don't want to be the last country to have any type of regulations. It's the wild, wild west out here. People come from the other places. Hey, what kind of permit do I need, or what can I not shoot? And it's Like, you can't spear lobster. That's all you tell them. That's about the only rule that we enforce here. And there's just too many of us on this island. Our reefs drop off too fast. There's no outer islands that are harder to get to. There are some banks, but it's very easily wiped out. And you get 4 guys on a boat at night. You can go down the reef. If you swim behind them, you're not going to find anything. You do have responsible guys that pick and choose, but then you have a lot of people that just shoot everything. And a parrotfish during the day, you shoot 1 in a school, you'll get 1 out of 20. The rest, I see you might get them a week later or something. At night, they sleep in schools. It's like a Christmas tree. 1, 2, 3, 4. You fill up your bag with parrotfish, that school's gone. It's not sustainable whatsoever. So please, I thank you guys for bringing this up again before it's too late. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Half a day. Okay. Is that good? All right. Half a day. I'm Ferrand Tyron. I am a scuba instructor, freediving instructor, general water enthusiast, and just someone who cares about our environment. And on the note of livelihoods, we hear a lot about, livelihoods with fishing. And I can also say, what about my livelihood? People come here to see our reefs, to see our fish and marine life, and we're severely lacking compared to a lot of places. In my career and in my personal life, I've been to the PI, Thailand, Australia, Palau, Saipan, Chuk, other places, and though it is in my nature to show off, that's not why I'm saying that. I'm just saying that because in a lot of areas of these places, compared to our entire island, or even compared to the best areas on our island to dive or to fish, there is far more abundance in some areas of these other places than compared to here. Story, I was in Yap a couple months ago. Went on the boat. The first place we dropped in the water, there's this monstrous school of atuhong. And I don't know if you've seen them, but they're not very nice looking fish. They're almost intimidating. It's like almost this gang of fish is coming at me and I'm like, oh wait, that's kind of scary. Tingisan. One time I was in Australia and I was with my wife and we were scuba diving just for fun. And there was this one tingisan that's just following us for 10-15 minutes. It's like a stray dog. It's kind of annoying. Just hey, okay, leave us alone. That wouldn't last one day here. Yeah. So back here home in Guam, I've not seen one single atuhong, not one. I've maybe seen less than 10 properly mature tingisan. And that's not just me. Creel data until 2006 shows 100% of atuhong caught by scuba spearfishing and 85% of tingisan caught by scuba spearfishing. All right. There's been talk about how the fish are smarter than us or they're better than us in their own environment, and that's true. But I think about this time in a lifetime ago at my ex-girlfriend's house. We didn't have aircon. So we just left the windows open, and I woke up one day with 70 mosquito bites. I counted all the bites. And my point in bringing that up is, at night, we're vulnerable. Fish are vulnerable too. I've heard a story of a fisherman teaching his wife how to catch hanging, barehanded, just catching the fish when they're sleeping at night. So that might be an idea to explore a ban or a moratorium on nighttime fishing. As others have stated. I look around this room, many of us know each other, including some of us senators, and I'm sure to everyone's dismay, one day I'm gonna have kids. And as terrifying as the idea of my offspring is gonna be, no matter what kind of little monsters they are, I'm sure we can all agree we want them to be able to see the reef fish that's supposed to be abundant here. And that's just a symptom of a much bigger problem, and that's our population. And I'm not suggesting any kind of population control. I'm not Catholic, but that would go in the face of the Catholic Church here, the Archdiocese, such as across the street. But other symptoms of that is we have a lot of other impacts. We have other irresponsible human-caused behavior with erosion caused by off-roading or by fire. If you don't know, 100% of fires on island are caused by people. We don't have natural fires. So we have that sedimentation that goes out onto the reef and it kills the coral. That's the fish's habitat. That's the reef fish's habitat. We don't have that coral. We don't have that reef fish to sustain. And I'll be the first to mention that, we're not just trying to point the finger entirely at scuba spearfishers or even fishermen in general. It's not all their fault. There's a lot of impacts that's going around. But where we can make a difference, we should. And we just take it, one step at a time or multiple steps at a time. And this is just one step I hope we continue on with and take more steps to alleviate the problem. It's the least we can do for my future little monsters. Okay. Other ideas we should explore. Regulating catch size limits. In other places I've lived and traveled, they have catch size minimums to give the fish a chance to get big enough to reproduce. And they have catch size maximums. I'm sorry, Ms. Tatro, I can't remember if a fish that's twice as big as another produces 10 times as many eggs, 100 or 1,000 times more eggs. Want to just shout at me? 100? Okay, so if one fish is twice as big as another fish, it makes 100 times more eggs. Female, of course. Right? Instead of just doing it, across the board, maybe we could explore the idea of, as another has said, doing catch size restrictions, both minimum and maximum, on commercially sold fish. So if anybody's gonna sell their fish to a shop and that shop's gonna sell it, they're not gonna buy fish if it's not within that range, or they're not gonna buy it if it's not within that range, and they're not gonna sell it if it's not within that range. What I would completely advocate for is funding our COs, our conservation officers, to proper manning and getting as close to that as we can, as fast as we can, and getting them to be at maximum efficiency. We have, I think I heard Chelsea say 7. We have 7 COs now for this entire island of 160-some thousand people. And, in trying to schedule that, we got to recognize you guys have lives too. We have some guys in the daytime, some guys at night. And the ones who aren't on shift, they got to sleep for their shift. And the ones who are off shift, they're probably at their party's house and they're having a few drinks. They can't respond to something, They got to have lives too. And I like to end on the indigenous note. Any kind of restriction, I always have a second guessing myself, or I have restriction, or I have a hesitance to follow or to promote because that's our indigenous right. And then I realized literally every island and every coastal village or town or city has indigenous people, and that's their indigenous rights. But they found a way in this modern world to incorporate that, or to act even sometimes in spite of the indigenous rights, because the world is changing and we have to change with it. So we're not special. That's our indigenous right. Everybody has indigenous rights. We just need to figure out how to make the resources sustain for my future little monsters. And though it is an indigenous right, the other side of that is missing, and that's the indigenous control. We don't have traditional methods of control anymore. We don't have chiefs that can say where not to fish, when not to fish, what not to fish, and what sizes not to fish, etc. We don't have that. The other crucially important aspect of that. We used to fish turtles, and before it was regulated by a chief, and it was only for special occasions. It's not just you can go get a turtle anytime you want, and it's broadly speaking about everything. We had a traditional control for our traditional rights, and now we are lacking those traditional and indigenous controls, so we need something to get us into shape. And on a more boring note, I think we should include some language in the bill or in the final law to make it unlawful to possess speared fish on a vessel or vehicle with fishing devices, and scuba gear at the same time, just so it's more easily enforceable and practically enforceable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hafide, Wallace Vince LaGuardia, and I am a native Chamorro freedive spearfisherman. I have been freedive spearfishing since I was 10 years old. I am now 30 years old. I started learning freedive spearfishing from my father, who is here to my left, and my uncles learning inside the reef in the shallows. My father and my elders taught me concepts of fish conservation, such as only shooting what you are going to eat and selecting sizable fish as to allow the smaller fish to grow. As I grew older and learned to fish outside the reef and in deeper depths, I gained experience and learned to observe fish characteristics and understand their roles in the reef ecosystem. I learned that the relationship between the fish, the reef, and other marine life is a direct relationship to me as a freedive spearfisherman. For example, if there are high reef fish populations, it means there is a healthy reef, which in turn means food for me on the table. Sharing this knowledge, practice, and tradition is key to having sustainable fishing experience. My friends and family, they all share the same love and interest in freedive spearfishing and would like to pass this knowledge and tradition to future generations of Guam in order to promote sustainable fishing methods and conservation of Guam's marine resources. We fish basically to eat fresh fish, just as our ancestors did, free of charge. I'm writing to the 35th Legislature to express my support of Bill 53-35 for the purpose of 1, allowing reef populations to increase and to return to shallower depths, aligning Guam regulations with the rest of the Pacific that have banned scuba fishing, and lastly, promoting sustainable fishing methods so that generations can enjoy the same fishing experiences. Throughout my years of fishing, I have seen significant decreases in populations of Palaxi, Lagua, Tangisun, Atuhung, especially more shallow waters. These specific types of fish can be targeted by commercial scuba fishermen, especially at night when they are sleeping and helpless. A healthier and more vibrant reef can attract more tourists, especially if they're in shallow waters. Aligning our regulations with the Pacific, if we want to know the effects of this bill, we can easily look to our neighboring islands in the Pacific, such as the CNMI, Palau, Philippines, the FSM, and many more that have all banned scuba fishing. Freedive spearfishing is one of the most sustainable methods of fishing. It promotes healthy lifestyle and care for the ocean environment. Being able to share that with the future generations is something that we need to protect and promote. Commercial scuba fishing can be a damaging method of fishing, especially if unregulated. This method of fishing can wipe out populations of specific fish species. Many scuba fishermen fish for profit, which means the more fish they catch, the more money they make. What this means for local spearfishermen like me is less fish to be caught and deeper depths to get the fish. I urge the 35th Legislature to approve this bill in order to protect Guam's reef fish population and reef ecosystem so that future generations can experience themselves what a healthy reef ecosystem looks like. I would also like to extend my support for other bills to be introduced that will protect sustainable fishing practices, native Chamorro fishing rights, and fish conservation measures that can allow Guam's fish populations to thrive and be more available for sustainable fishermen. Thank you, and Sidusmasi.
Thank you. Mr. LaGuardia.
Afere manilu za manenahu. It has been over 8 years, over 9, and I wonder why that when Manny is the last to testify, it seems that it is the absolute word. So I ask that he testify and I be the last. Because those 9 years we've been battling this for years. And it seems that when we testify first and he testifies last, this bill never goes through. As I ask you, Mr. Senators, Manny, August Hogum and Fitma Finena, Kiniguaho. I ask that he testify, and I want to hear what he has to say.
Mr. Dwayne, you would be willing to testify first?
I humbly request it to be last, but that means you're the chairman, Mr. Chairman. I don't tell you what to do in your store.
Okay, so then this is how I'll handle it. I will look in the order of who signed up, and whoever signed up first will speak first.
That's all right, Mr. Chairman. Don't have to look. I'll testify.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just didn't want him to wait all day after I'm finished talking because you guys will have to have breakfast over here. First of all, my name is Manuel P. Dwayne II. I am a Chamorro. The fishermen I'm talking about today are Chamorros. Traditional practices that have been long been professed by the people here are very different from what I remember when I was a little kid. Because the only equipment I recall the old people having was a hand spear and a torch. They were lucky if they had a flashlight and they wrapped inner tube around it. There were nobody going over the reef. Nobody had a spear gun. That was an invention brought to Guam. My Uncle John Cruz from Jennaromani walked the reef barefooted. And he'll trade you a sack of lobster for a case of Spam to feed his family because he didn't have a job. He was a fisherman. And that's the way it was many years ago. So I keep hearing this word tradition, tradition, tradition. The only word I understand with tradition for 4,000 years is that we feed our people. That's what we do with our fish, not just our families, not just our friends, not for the barbecue. It's for Tan Maria and Tunose and all those people in Jigu and Diridu and in the bedridden at home that want to eat some reef fish. And all my years, 25 years with the Guam Fishermen's Co-op, and the many years before that fishing, I spent 15 years underwater. And I watch Pat Atherton and I watch there's other people in this room. I know they can kill 10 times more than the scuba divers. They have. And I won't say their names. I've seen their catch. Actually, they're the ones that turn me on into spearfishing. But you know what? My father always told me. And that's one thing that those people don't understand. Because the guys I know that scuba dive, they were born and raised in a Chamorro family. And they were told by their fathers and mothers, don't be greedy. And second, you have to share. Back then my family was from Jennaromani. When my dad needed his Jeep fixed, we gave a pig to the mechanic. When that Tulay came in and Mr. Tapasner came up from Yamarak to catch the fish in Iran, we treated Mr. Tapasner like a king, but he gave everybody had fish. When these guys go fishing, who gets their fish? Their family and friends, not the neighbors, not Tan Maria and Tunose. That's why I'm looking at you senators when you want to ban something. Senators, I'm going to give you just two examples on why they ban things. One, in American Samoa. I've been a fishery manager for 20 years, running the co-op for 25 years. So everywhere I go, I try to find out how things are. I went to American Samoa and they said they banned scuba. I said, great. And they showed me the scale where it went back up. I said, wow, you guys, where's your scuba tank area? I want to try diving here because I'm a certified diver. Oh, we don't have one. How did you get scuba divers? They have a boat that comes from one of the other islands that comes in on a daily basis. They bring in a scuba tank, and you know who they were? Outer island people. So they had to ban it because nobody in Samoa actually went scuba diving. American Samoa I'm talking about. I'm not going to say what island they came from. And this island supplies the state of Hawaii. Okay. So that was a heavy commercial fishing. The other thing is CNMI. You guys brag about it. Oh, they banned it. Back in the day, and Richard Beneventi, God rest his soul, explained to me this very thoroughly. He goes, Manny, the reason why we banned it, people were diving, but they were dying. because they were bringing H2 workers in, and they were using the hookah system, which is a compressor on the boat, a tube going down and a mast, and they were shooting fish for 8 hours in depths unbelievable. So they were getting the bends and they were dying. So in order to prevent them from, they wanted to ban hookah, that type of fishing. So in order not to make them go any further, they banned scuba. And then lo and behold, it's okay, they banned scuba. Then Felix Sasamoto from CNMI, one of the best divers they have, went down and shot a Tangisan at 80, 90 feet. And he was lambasted, a free diver. So, when is the end of conservation going to end? And on this big issue of big fish, I actually went to the east side after I got certified and everything. We checked out the areas that was mentioned earlier about where the big fish are. I found golf balls from the golf course. That was a house for the atoll. As far as they said, oh, no more big fish after a certain date, I'm going to tell you a fact. The only organization or entity that ever tested for Ciguatera on Guam was the Fishermen's Co-op. And in 2008, they stopped making it. So I told the fishermen, we're not. I'm going to tell you a true story, and maybe George Lai is listening. Mama Shirley from Shirley's Coffee Shop was my regular customer. She liked gado, and she liked tangisan, and she liked anything exotic. She'll come in every week. I didn't see her for over a month. I said, Mama Shirley, what happened to you? You went off island? She goes, no. I got sick. I said, what, you had a heart attack? I was real worried about it because she's kind of old already. She goes, no, I bought a tangisan from a fisherman, and I got Ciguatera. So after that, I couldn't sell her even her favorite gado because I didn't want to kill the poor lady. So after that, we quit buying fish. Atuhong, I never cared for. Our customers never cared for it. So, I like this thing about the co-op being mentioned, and the fish market will shut down. It won't. Because when I took over the co-op 25 years ago, we were selling 70, 80% reef fish. That's including bottom fish. Now, because we developed recipes for mahi to barbecue it and make it taste as good as longga, and it's a lot cheaper, we developed, you know what? Payless didn't invent those recipes you see in their booklet. We created those at the co-op because we wanted to change the eating habits of the people. And I thought we could be applauded for that, but no, we get chastised for that. So now we're selling less than 30%. All of that 30% of reef fish and bottom fish, 80% comes from freedivers, even a 16-year-old. And when it comes to conservation, I'm the biggest a-hole around. Tong Kim, who's one of my prize members, can kill 3,000 bottom fish. But I'll yell at him when he walks in the door. What are you trying to do? Finish the resource? Are you stupid? You ask any of the fishermen that sells to the co-op. I'll yell at them. You know why? The last 20 years of my life, I've dedicated to not having regulation. I heard this place as being a wild frontier. The only thing that made it a wild frontier is we allowed those 12 Yamaha boats to go run amok. I asked many years ago if we can just do a simple legislation, and I think everybody would be happy. Only U.S. citizens can fish in our waters. You know those islands that they come from and all the other islands surrounding us that everybody's bragging about? They get an average of $5 million a year from the United States government to allow purse seiners to fish in their waters. That's from the U.S. $70 million a year. And then they bring their boats that were donated by the country of Japan to my island and wipe out my resources, and I have to deal with my poor guys being punished as being evil. That's all I heard today. Because they read a magazine, they read a book. Why don't you read life? That's why I wanted to be last, Ron. Because I am frustrated. I am sick. I am dying. And all these people in this room are happy when I die because I won't be here to testify anymore. But I am frustrated because I see what they catch. It's documented. You know what's really funny? Over 10 years ago, a top scientist from Hawaii at a meeting said, you know, our onagas produce only at summertime and they have to be 7 pounds or greater. Okay, I said, I just cleaned an onaga in December and it had eggs and it was less than 2 pounds. Oh, I don't believe you. So we started doing biosampling for the last 10 years. We take every fish, we weigh it, we measure it, and guess what? We even take the otoliths out of the brain, which is like a tree ring, and we sent it to be studied. And guess the little secret that nobody knows about? Our fish grow twice as fast as the Great Barrier Reef. But none of these guys teach it in the classroom. They teach propaganda in the classroom. I was an educator for almost 20 years. I always showed two sides of the story. But I get only one side from this legislature. I am frustrated. Thank God I'm going to die soon. So you can have this world where Tan Maria and Tuno say will never eat fresh fish again. They'll have to go buy it at the market from the Philippines, China, Taiwan. Is that what you want? I mean, I hate to say it. I ate basa for the first time in my life, which is catfish from the Mekong Delta, where we had Vietnam, where we dumped ore. You thought we dumped a lot of crap on Guam? Robert? Robert doesn't know, but in 1962, the radiation on the west side of our island peaked 10,000 times in 1962. Where was all the detonation of nuclear explosion? On the east side. How do you get double reef peaking that high, spiking in 1962? Because they must have blown up a nuclear bomb on the west side. I can go on. Like I said, I don't depend on little piece of paper for me to understand. I have to observe. I've heard the citation. Oh, Dr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so. Really? How long did they spend on Guam? I spent the last 25 years working, dealing, suffering when the fishermen are missing. My nephew was eaten by a tiger shark, and this legislature passed a law that all sharks have to be protected. They only found his right leg. The tourist was down in Asan, no arms, no legs. But let's hug the shark. My fishermen are suffering right now because for every fish they land, there's a shark behind it. But you guys don't come to me now to find out, hey, Manny, what's the pulse? What does it feel like? But back to the original point, and I haven't started my testimony. That's why I asked to be last, so I can bore the crap out of you people. Save the fish for future generation. You know when a person comes in the co-op, young people, hey, you got the bluefish? Hey, you got the one with the horn? When you get a Tan Maria, ay boy, kugwa totaga, kugwa lagwan diso, kugwa lofi, pagwa gupaw. They're speaking to, you know, the last bastion for the Chamorro words is in that ocean. And I'm very proud of the fact that when they walk in, I don't say lapu-lapu. Ay boy, gua lapu-lapu. Taza lapu-lapu, gua garo. I mean, even agriculture, I got mad at Brent Tibbetts because he made a beautiful fish poster. All in Chamorro. Then they had Lagwan Amarizu. With Brent. Amarizu is Spanish. Oh, that's what the Chamorro translator told me. Lagwan Amarizu? Really? That's Gualafi. And now now that I mentioned Gualafi, I love these people. They all say, oh, the fish, they're sleeping at night. Seriously? That shows me they don't have the cojones, okay, to fish at night. I've dove at least 500 dives at night, and maybe about 20 in the day. And I see bigger fish in the day than at night. Okay? But let me tell you something. The Gualafi leans against the coral. The blue, they swim, the brown, they swim together in small groups and they stay under a ledge. And once you shoot one, brr, that's what we hear. Brr. The blue, yes, they find a hole, or even the one that's yellow-blue. Where's, what's his name? He's my biologist. They park themselves in a rock. Okay? The tataga, they don't park anywhere. They're swimming around. The mamula, they're swimming around. And no more big fish. I don't know if you saw the video that went viral. We got to ban gaffs now. They caught a 41-pound mamula in the Ganya Marina. And people tell, oh, Tajaf, no more big fish. I've dove a lot. I fished a lot. The fish are not going to park themselves. Oh, is Manette Duenas coming today? I'm going to wait for him to come and show up. Oh, yeah. I'm over here. They'll be there today. They'll be gone next week. Talk to me about fishing. I've done it all. Even the scientists, when they took the bottom fishermen guys up to Rhoda Banks and they let them bottom fish, they couldn't catch anything. They were using the best bait in the world. But when NOAA scientists sent the camera down 600 feet, the fish were all going, I'm here, but I'm not hungry. I'm not going to bite your hook. Ombi, back to the point again. I'm tomorrow. I was raised to be a conservative. I could see 10 wild pigs. My dad would say, that's the one you shoot. And so I carry that in the water. And every scuba diver in this room that I know, because I don't know who these guys hang around with, are the same. Because we were born, bred, and educated by our parents not to be greedy. And the portrayal, like on the shark, oh, we don't want you people to be finning sharks. That was the portrayal of our fishermen. Now I get a portrayal of the fishermen being greedy guys because they're using scuba tanks. I'm going to look at you in this room, all of you. The next person that drowns from freediving, you go to their funeral. Because none of these guys have ever died from scuba diving. When there's a car accident because a car is going 60 miles an hour, either reduce the speed limit, tell them wear a seatbelt, or you create regulations to control it. But why do we have to go to the extreme of banning it? If the mosquito fleet is the problem, again, I want to go back to the fact. The United States government is paying our U.S. boats to access Palau, Chuuk, Ponape, Kosrae, Marshall Islands, as much as $70 million a year. We don't get a dime of that. So when they send their people under here, under the so-called compact impact, then as far as I'm concerned, you pay us. I just want to perpetuate the fact that we are an island that feeds our people. Many of you don't know, and I wish Judy Amesbury were here, we had 70,000 people living in our island 2,000 years ago. We had over 300 villages 2,000 years ago. We didn't have cows, pigs, chickens, birds in the sense that we could, pigeons that we can pluck. Though we had birds, we ate them. On the land to sustain us. We depended wholly on the ocean. The thing we're doing now is we're killing our ocean. The National Geographic lady, she's here doing a video. She said to me, global warming. I said, there's no global warming. In the sense that we're polluting the world with the cars. I said, we're putting concrete everywhere. We're putting concrete everywhere. There's a study by the Fish and Wildlife Service, Assen, the old Camp Assen area, up to 30 dump trucks of sedimentation a year goes in that ocean. Agania Bow Basin, I have charter boats that ask me, Manny, can we park at the fuel dock? Because they cannot transverse anymore. The water is only 3 feet deep. feet deep, and it used to be 8 feet. Outside the boat basin, ask Johnny Atulay. He's probably drunk right now. He'll tell you. His $5,000 net that he bought in the PI that he brags about, it's supposed to be 20 feet deep. He has to fold it in half because it's only 10 feet. Addressing the scuba is like worrying about a little blackhead on your nose. It doesn't get rid of the acne. So as far as I'm concerned, my dearest Chairman and the introducer of this legislation, all you did was create friction. I tell them I love them, but I really don't appreciate the fact they put more stress on my life. That I'm worried about these guys surviving, and they don't know the gospel truth of anything. They all have jobs. That's their job, to promote banning this and banning that. I'll tell you a true story. Another true story. The Pacific remote island areas, those areas that belong to the United States that's not inhabited, are now full-fledged monument. Full-fledged monument. The island of Palmyra, and I'm saying this publicly, belongs to the Nature Conservancy, a major international conservation group. When CNMI was going to be declared a monument, the last 3 islands, the same time we had the Marianas Trench Monument, I wanted our Chamorro people to go up to those 3 islands and still catch fish. Because in Hawaii, when they created their monument, guess what? The Hawaiians, they can get in their canoe, go up to the northwest Hawaiian Islands, and catch all the fish they want, but they cannot bring it home. Is that part of our culture? We don't share? No. So I didn't want the same thing to happen to the Chamorros and the Carolinian and the Northern Marianas. So I was chairman that time of the council. I told the legal counsel, we're not going to allow you guys to fish in Palmyra. They're so scared of the conservation group. They said, okay, Manny, we'll let you guys fish in the Northern Marianas. Okay? I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm taking so much time. And like I said, I haven't looked at my notes yet. This is all from the stupid little brain of mine. But at the end of the day, I just wish our fishermen could get along and address the issue on the table. The issue is those 12 boats. Okay? That's the issue on the table. And I wish you'd take this legislation back and actually develop a program, because I don't believe in hurting anybody. Oh, tell you another quick story. I hope you guys got time. When the Northwest Hawaiian Islands were going to be shut down to be a monument, no fishing allowed, there were only eight Hawaiian boats fishing up there. And one of the 8, it was owned by a native Hawaiian guy. And his son came to our public hearing just like this, and he cried in front of me. And I really wanted to kill the federal government on that day. Because he begged, he goes, I wanted to get the boat from my father. And I wanted to take over his operation. I wanted to continue our legacy, because he'd be the 3rd generation to go bottom fishing. You know, we talk about advanced technology. The Japanese can be advanced. They can use monofilament net. We can use graphite spear guns. We can use fins that are a mile long. We can use masks that have glasses in them so you can have better vision. But when a fisherman goes and puts on a scuba tank and is selective, and I can show you our catch records. He doesn't only kill the lagua, he doesn't only kill the tataga, he kills the saksak, he kills the gupao, he kills those other fish. Whereas I know a person in this room that can kill 200 pounds of parrot in one day. Like I said, don't talk shit, because I know the shit. So, like I said, now can I start? I know Mr. Luana wants me to go first. Mr. Chairman? Okay? So again, I'm back to saving the fish for the future generation. What generation you're talking about? Let Tan Maria die in peace. I mean, I feel bad. Mrs. Perez, she keeps calling me, boy, when are they going to pass the law so we can eat the octopus again? Octopus, a creature that lives 2 years. You guys passed a law prohibiting it. Ooh, too much brain power for me. I'd like to thank Ted Nelson. He said, well, we're going to fight. I said, Primo, I don't think so. I think we're on the same page. Because he did mention it was those people fishing on the east side. I just wish agriculture would understand, because they're so concerned about the environment, and these people are so concerned about the environment, that they use Pago Bay as their main offshoot to access the east side. Now, if you think of the conservation, the ecological damage that's occurring in Pago Bay, I think all these greenies can go over there and say, hey, let's protest, but so that they won't have access. You know, if you block the road, the cars cannot go in. But no, they don't think, they only think, oh, scuba's the problem. But, you know, I hate to say it. You can ask one of the dive shops, the spear company, and they said, they bring in people every 3 to 6 months to run those little Yamaha boats. So you're not getting rid of the problem. Actually, you're making it better for them. Because instead of $2.50 a pound, they're going to get $4 because nobody else can do it. Duh, I'm too smart. They have a Bejarana report, Sonia Bejarana. She spent over a month here in Guam and throughout Micronesia. And she went around. And when she came back to Guam and she finished her report, she presented to the fishermen. Because you know what really freaked her out? Every island that she went to, average fish was 3 to 4 inches because they're all lagoon fisheries. Only in Guam do we have fishermen that go over the reef. That's why our fish are big. And contrary to popular belief, I even confirmed it with some top scientists, big fish, though they produce a lot of eggs, I think if you're a fisherman, you ever see them swimming real tight? They're not swimming together. They're far apart. So when they don't know how to copulate, is that the word? You know, they don't know how to have sex. So one drops the egg, one drops the sperm. So if the current goes the wrong way, those billion eggs that supposedly are so great don't get fertilized. Whereas on the smaller fish, which I know produce eggs, even though they're babies, you know, because they say little girls can get pregnant. Well, our fish get pregnant real fast. They swim in unison. Those that been in the water. You've ever watched those live movies, whatever, on TV? The fish are swimming. Hundreds of them. They produce more fish than those big ones. Okay? I just want to share that with you. So that's Bejarana's report. Guam, our fish that were caught 10 times bigger. Tupper report. The preserves. That was created in, over 20 years ago? And when I was here in the testimony, I was the only one here, and there were 7 scientists to my right. And they told me they wanted to protect the coral reef species. I bet you if I ask these students what's a cremus and a bemus, they won't know what's a bemus or a cremus. Well, a cremus is a coral reef management species. And that species is anything within the coral system. The scientists told me 30 feet is what they wanted to protect. Well, I said, I'll give them 60 feet. They said, okay, we like that. When at the end of the thing, the law became 600 feet. 600 feet, from 60 to 600 feet, it is not coral reef anymore. It is what they call the bemus group. And you only catch that bottom fish. Bemus. See, we're unique on our island of Guam. We're better than Hawaii, and a lot of times we're better than CNMI, and a lot of times we're better than American small. We have more species on Guam, and we have more variety of species, and we fish different ways. Hawaii, you have reef fish, and then you have deep bottom fish. On Guam, we have reef fish, midwater fish, and then deep bottom fish. Thank you. Okay, next one is so Tupper report says, of the 5 species he studied, 3 left the preserve. 3 came into the preserve, only 2 left. So the preserves don't really work, but I don't care. The NEOSH report said that since the preserves were created, more than 15, I believe they counted, Chamorro fishermen, free divers died. The thing you don't understand about where these preserves are is like when I grew up fishing. You just don't teach anybody. You don't jump over the reef in Talavofu or Agate. You start in Tomhom. Tomhom is your Kitsu, Sezun killing ground. You practice there because the water is only 4 to 5 feet deep. Then you work, once you get expert at catching the Kitsu, which is not a major species of concern, then you move down to Pt.2 Bamho. That's about 35 feet deep. Then you get the cojones to go over the reef, or you just stay inside. Can I share a bit of historical information with you guys? Prior to 1961 or 62, Tumon was a swamp. That's why I love it when these people always say, oh, we got to protect the coral in Tumon. Tumon was a mangrove forest. In 1962, a guy named Peter Wilson, Howley guy working for the State Department, came to the Micronesia for fisheries development. He got the explosive ordnance people to blow up that channel in Tumon. You see that channel, Tumon, where the little island is? That was man-made. So when he told me that when they blew it up, the water went, all the swamp water went out, high tide came in. That's why Tumon, I think that's one thing you should do, build a statue for him. Because your billion-dollar industry is sitting on something he created. His name is Peter Wilson. Those are the things in life. You ask me, I'll answer you. I have no reason to lie. That's why I tell people, I'm not married because I don't want to start lying. Okay? So I'm just letting you know about that one. Data, size, frequency. We have 10 years of data that you want to look at, which is much more real than the survey that the Department of Agriculture does. Because if you're going to look at visiting the marina 4 times a month, even those condition 1, as being data, we got a problem here. MPAs, its value, I already talked about. 10 years of biosampling, I mentioned that, and I can give you that information. Catch, 80% are freedivers, 20% scuba, what I'm receiving. Actually, less now. Sorry, I'm trying to move it along because I talked too much. But I recommend, before I make my recommendation, can we do a few things? I just want to, on the federal side, okay, in early 2000, Joe Hobson and Kenny Pierce, some of you people remember who they are. They were the major mahi producers on this island. Okay? I went down to they were complaining that the port fish was coming out and they were selling to all the markets on Guam at 50 cents a pound, and they were barely able to sell their fish. I went on there like a madman. That time I had Governor Guterres, I think, on my back. You know what I mean? Yes, my back. Not my lower back, but my upper back. So I went down there and I acted like a big man, and I called 5 of the biggest companies and I said, hey, you got to stop this shit. You're not dropping off any more mahi. You're hurting the fishermen. Mind you, those 2 guys were not members of the co-op. And they, for me, do destructive fishing too, in my terms, because they go to the buoy and hang out there all day. But that's fine. That's their livelihood. So I went down there and I negotiated and worked it out. Not this legislature, not the governor's office. I went down there to protect the fishermen that didn't like me, just like tonight. When they were going to create the whole southern seamount as an MPA, I fought it. Galvez, white tuna, Santa Rosa, all that's supposed to be a federal preserve. I fought that. So, you know, when I get chastised here, come on, show me. You know, the thing I hate about this whole thing, this whole exercise, is the lack of respect. Because when I talk about fishermen that are heavily fishing an area, I call them rakers. I heard the word rapist a couple of times tonight. And don't it's like comparing Hitler. No, you don't do that. They just don't know any better. They're stupid. Federal Registry. Every saltwater fisherman in this room is supposed to pay the federal government $38 a year. And guess who's the idiot that went to Washington and said, no, people of Guam should not do that? Not this legislature. I went and fought for you guys, fishermen. So now we're exempted. But you know what's funny? We had to go the second round of exemption because the first round, the governor's office didn't send a letter. So I was harassed. Coast Guard, fishing requirements, commercial fishing requirements. There's a lot of them in this room. The Coast Guard requires you to have $6,000 worth of equipment on your little 20-foot boat. $6,000. Congressman Underwood, when he was congressman, we met at the Lighthouse Restaurant with the commander of the Coast Guard, and we negotiated an equivalency that didn't require all that stuff. And up to now, it's still being honored by the Coast Guard. But no, let's ban this because you're no better than me. Let's hurt people. Let's hurt the people of Guam. Let them eat the gas fish or eat something else. Military firing range. You guys supported the military. Now you're against it. I don't know. I'm confused, this legislation. Then you guys created this local shark law. My poor son over there can't even catch fish anymore. They're biting the stupid lure. But no, let's hug the shark. Local MPAs. I don't know why we need this ban. If they work so well, why do we need a ban? That means they're not working, so open it up. I want to go fishing back to my icebox. I never sold a single fish, but Tomam was always my refrigerator. I know where to get sezu and I know where to get kisu. When my parents and my grandparents were alive, they're the ones that ate my fish. But I had to go to different spots in that bay to find a different species for them. Thank God they're gone. They'll probably get mad at me. Octopus law. I wish you guys would think about that.
Mr. Dwayne, so I understand you're trying to paint a full picture
Okay,
here
so I'll
of
do my
fishing,
recommendation real
but
quick.
if you could please hone it in and narrow it down to
Okay, I'll get my
the bill that
recommendation.
we're discussing. Thank you.
I wish you would take this bill and put it away and work with me in developing a scuba limited entry program. I still believe that scuba has a purpose. Okay? Just like the drag race place up there has a purpose. And I believe in putting 20 permits based on certification, based on historical certification, based on control date, which I believe should be 2010. So anybody that was fishing before that, you can allow, and their descendants, whoever you want, so long as there's a limit of 20. And they must report their catch, and they can put a limit, annual catch limit on them. And no landing of a tuhong or tangisan. If that's a major species of concern, I haven't seen one in a long time. Okay, that's one thing. And a U.S. citizen. I think we as U.S. citizens and as Chamorros, which could be protected under that title, should be used. Catch reporting, and you guys don't have a law against diving without certification. I think you guys should pass a law on that one. Okay, now the part that people may not like. Permit for spearfishing, free diving. Looking for 100 participants. Now you can work with the Marianas Underwater Fishing Federation and village mayors on seeing how many you're looking at average. Could be maybe 200. But the whole purpose here is to get these guys recorded. And also, you can do like with the scuba, if you're selling it, you want to, that restriction for scuba is only for selling, not for non-commercial. Okay, I still want to go dive someday with my 9 toes. Okay, got to find a fin that fits that. So anyways, so 100, 200 participants, and the free divers can talk about it. Based on historical catch, U.S. citizen, natural born. Okay, I think it's birthright citizenship, cash reporting, and also the same control date, 2010. I figure that's far enough records that we can find. Also, it kind of works out for everybody else. We need a boat ramp for the east side, and if there's an issue that other people are going to access the east side again, like I said, close. I hope agriculture can close Pago Bay, create a boat ramp on the east side. The other early part of the year, there was a free diver that was almost lost. I'm glad he didn't drown. But the fire rescue had to drive around the island. It takes them 8 hours. How would you like your son or daughter to be out there for 8 hours floating in the water? Please, there is money available. The Department of Agriculture Sports Fish Fund, GIDA, EDA, there's a whole bunch of places. As a matter of fact, GIDA has about $280,000. They haven't spent on the boat ramp in Talafofo. Let's put that in. You can put a gate, and it's only for fire rescue. You'll go save people. These are the things I want you guys to address. Not this touchy-feel-good, because it does nothing to advance any type of conservation. We need to control the ones that are hitting the water hard. Exclusive use of, the boat ramp. Allow for seasonal pelagics also to go out that way. In other words, they can use that boat ramp, but only for the mahi season or the wahoo season. If they find any spearfish on the boat or speared fish, then they can arrest them. You know what I mean? Take away the permit, whatever. I think I've done enough damage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, just for the record, to be clear, Mr. Dwayne actually did sign up prior to Mr. LaGuardia, and according to the sheet here, Mr. LaGuardia was the last person to sign up, so it is only fair that he go last. Mr. LaGuardia, you may proceed.
Afre, si Ronald LaGuardia zu, da pudi specialmente, papesangan esti, pudi otsu, na famagonu. Si Dean, si Monty, si Eli, si Dakota, si Heidi, si Bo, and si Liam, and si Alex. Besangan, este na tinestigo, put para yung comprendi, gifino Inglaterra. My name is Ronald Tenorio LaGuardia. I am a bona fide farmer. I grow my own food. I'm a sustainable fisherman, and I catch my own food. Where did Manny go? He says, let me tell you, I got my time. Let me clarify this. He says at night that the tataga swims. Wrong. Wrong already. Where have you been fishing? Manny, I haven't seen you throughout my 40 years of fishing career, Manny.
Mr. LaGuardia,
That's
please,
the bottom line. Let me tell you.
Thank you. I understand,
This is the truth.
Just for
I'm
decorum
in the water
purpose.
almost every week.
Understood, Mr. LaGuardia.
Brother, listen, I got my
Ladies
time.
and gentlemen, please let's keep decorum here.
All right,
no more,
but let
no
me
more talking
clarify.
amongst each other. Address your comments
I've been fishing.
to the table. Thank you.
But because the reality of a true fisherman will tell the real truth and the story. Manny has not been out in the water to see. The west side is wiped out. The east side is near wiped out. I free dive up to today, and I've seen the damage. Let me clarify again. Many who presented here have spoken, but you can tell they're not true fishermen. The problem here, Mr. Senator and the senators, is scuba spear at night. I have no problem with scuba spear in the day. My friend Lewis over there, he has his spots. You know why? Because the fish won't come up to you. with those bubbles up like that. That's the reality. I'm going to mention names because you don't have, let's be real. John Titano was talking about pelagic, caught thousands of pounds of patulai, caught more than any of us. That's a seasonal fish. It's a pelagic fish. They come in occasionally. Reef fish are the ones that are being depleted. I have nothing against about pelagic. Those are deep ocean fish. They're plentiful. But our reef fish are being tanked at 5 feet of water. Unbelievable. On the east side. And I mentioned this in my last testimonies. Those boats, we'll use the same term, rape the reef. I don't fish in preserves. And I have many enemies. Enemies who do not care for the future of our marine resources of Guam. I just came back from Pohnpei. I took video of Chuuk Island. Those atoll, beautiful. They don't allow it in their island. But why here? They come here and rape it and tell them, they tell us, F you Chamorros, we own Guam. Right from their boats, right in front of us, in front of Ted Nelson's. La Masa right there, we're standing right there. And go out, do your tanking in the deep. Free dive night spearfishing is limited. You can only go so deep. But when you go tank, unlimited. 60 feet, 60 minutes is the maximum for your tank. If you can achieve that, control your breathing. I have my certification, scuba. Now, so you can take this. Manny, you want certification? Take my certification. It's 1979. Look how I look on that. You talk about emotional? I'm tired of this. He must have been using the same notes from 9 years ago. The reality is that we, and I'm glad that Pat is here, Monique, Todd, and my fellow freedivers are out here. We don't sell our fish. We're for sustainable purposes, to feed our families. Tan Maria Chais eats my fish, and Tunwan eats my fish, because I give it to them. But you know, it's the tank. You guys admitted on me, the coolers, and it's not $2.50 a pound. It's $4 and $4.50 a pound. We go up there, we see all that. Coolers of tataga like that big. I mean, to catch a tataga that big, I mean, probably Todd's the only one that can do that. And a few of the boys. But I'm glad that they are here because the battle has been going on for years. I don't have my testimony written. I even brought the wrong booklet. I mean, binder. This is the indigenous one. But I have everybody's testimonies from the past 9 years. This has gone through BJ, Senator BJ. This has gone through Rory. Rory held it. I become emotional because I see the devastation. I don't dive deep. I go with the young guns. I have learned to dive in the shallow already. And I fine-tuned my techniques. And to allow enough for me to catch and come home, to feed my families. But there are no more places for us to fish. But we go to the most treacherous waters and we just fine-tune our skills. I chose not to tank for the purpose because I know the devastation it can do. Since 1979. I look like a Micronesian here. Tell you that. And I still have it. Both PADI and NAUI certified. But I don't use this. I prefer to use one breath, one shot, one kill. like the rest of the guys here. And it's right, Manny mentioned it. It's the company, that's a fleet of divers that rape the reef on a 24-hour, 12-hour shift, I believe how they do it. From 7 to midnight, there are 4 divers or 5 divers and 1 driver. They go out, they tank it, wipe it out in the shallows, come back in, empty out the tanks, put new tanks in, change the divers, go back out again. That's about 8 to 10 boats, 4 divers to 6 divers per boat. That's 48 scuba divers using tank. At night, the night there is the one that you need to put in. Scuba spearing at night. My notes indicate here I've worked for Underwater World as an educator, as a presenter. And I talked about conservation. And I wanted to mention that. And I believe this does not affect the people who are harvesting aquarium fish or what. This is for the scuba spear at night. The effects of that type of method, like it's a method of harvesting. They sleep at night. Tataga doesn't swim at night. They lean against there. When you flash the light, they lean against there. I grab the tataga by the head. And you can hold it like that if you're strong enough. The hangman, you can just grab the hangman. But those things don't swim around. Lagwas sit there. It's roofless. Those are the terms. Roofless. Over harvesting. The bill right now is to amend to put night in there. Scuba spear at night. And as for all these, under the penalties of sections 6.3, 104, 5, 6, 7, 8, 116, and all of these other sections, I don't know what those are. It's dangerous to pass this like this, and we don't know what they are. But if you pass it with the night and then remove that, and this, even this per scene, I've seen this in the last proposal. Just keep it scuba spear night. And if you're caught in the boat with both of them, the spear gun and the tank, you're in clear violation. If you have the tank right there, no problem. You got the spear right there, no problem. But you put them together, it's probable cause. We don't use that for emergency purposes. We've been free diving for a long time. Tanking for a long time, we don't. It's high time that we do something about it. It's just, I'm out there telling you, Manny has not been out there. I don't see him out there free diving, looking out in the waters, tanking. We were banned from their organizations. My sons, my friends, we have our own group. We don't compete anymore with MUF. They banned us because we keep fighting for this. And Manny keeps convincing them that this is not a fight among fishermen. But this is high time. Please, por favor, scuba spear at night. Daytime, no problem. Do not ban reef spearfishing at night because they're just limited. This is a start. It's the night because I'm hearing scuba spear. But the problem is at night. They're sleeping right there. The lagua would sit right there, rack it up, loads, and then you see the coolers at the flea market. Just go and you see those big containers of big fish, big lagua, gada, imandangkulo siya nagwiyan. Tunga natin makoko ni, no? Gi kanto ni matinga na. That's deep. But I want to thank you for bringing this up, and I want to make sure that you guys do something about this. You would need to take 8 to pass. And if the governor does not sign it, it would take 10 to override. I don't want to have to be here again in the next legislature. And I want to thank the sponsor. Who was the sponsor? I see it underlined. Is it Tina? Is it Senator Barnes? Who was the sponsor of this bill?
Senator Perez is the main sponsor.
Yes, okay.
Speaker Barnes and myself are co-sponsors.
Okay, thank you, because I see it's underlined under Tina. And para Augustia, Sabina. Gini ni corazon no, da ni corazon ni famagun, da ni mamela siya na generasyon, utungan ng komprendio. Importante na tatsogisti. Tongkulu na si Diyos maasi na on email zo. Lo uatan hodzi ne gwini ne para utatsu to stand up for this. I wouldn't be here. And I knew Manny would do that. Would close it. Because in the past hearings, we would testify and go, and then he would tell you that story. Well, we have stories too. And that the fish stocks are depleted. Believe me. These guys are here right now. Before, they would refuse to join in with us because it's a fight among fishermen. But you know, it's the bottom line. We need to do something. And for the future generations, and that I've already, calculated my life to dedicate my children and my grandchildren. That when my grandson, Eli, he's 3 years old right now. And when I'm 60 right now. In 20 years, he'll be 23. I'll be 80. And I want to be able to teach him to free dive and catch just for the family and to feed me when I get old. Through the proper ways of conservation. We as native Chamorros know when to fish and hunt. Tempun Senahi, the 5 days of the new moon. Those 5 days, everything from land and sea come out. We have seasons when the fish come, the tiao, the manyahak. We are seasonal. We don't just go out there and go ruthlessly and hunt the denizens of the deep. But it's so dear to me. I try not to write my testimony. My son Ron is in Hawaii. He submitted a testimony. And I wish he were here. My other sons are, Vaughn is not here, unable to be here. But it's so dear and so important. It is so important. I'm out there all the time. The rest of my free dive friends here. But we don't go ruthlessly and kill. We're very selective. And we take what's enough for the family. And what happens is, to me, I believe in the Lord, because He gives you what you deserve that's enough for you. When you hit that fish and it tears away, it wasn't meant for you. See, God is the one that makes that determination. He makes it enough for you to come home to feed your family. And I believe a lot in the Lord. And we have, life is too short, but this is something that it is a start, like Monique said, it is a start. And I'm so glad that my fellow free divers are here. And I don't mean anything personal, but I want to tell you that story when I was growing up. Was Marvin Chanko was a scuba diver. These guys know him. When he hung about 10 bumphead parrots on the front of his fence in Sanahanya, he killed over 10 atuhungs, and he lined it all along the fence. And I'm sure the boys know that. That was the end of seeing an atuhung. Tengisons are rare. You can see the small ones, but they're smart now. And the big fish are smart. They wouldn't have gotten that big if they weren't smart. Remember that. And that's what I've learned through the past. And if you got one of those through your one breath and your one shot, then you are a true warrior. You deserve that. And that's the ancient Chamorro way of doing it. The prize fish made you a warrior, and you deserve that. But I have never shot at Tangisan in my life. I don't know, but I just catch enough, and I catch hang-on now, willies, Black Sea, with what I have right now at 60 years old. One breath at shallow. I don't go 60 and 80 like the guys, but I still want to be able to continue the practice of free diving with one breath, one shot, and one kill for the future generations and so on. Vesinafamos, I would like to just thank you. I don't mean any personal, but we've always been battling it with Manny and the co-op. I'm not a member of the co-op, but I am a subsistence fisherman and a bonfire farmer, and I practice my tradition to feed my family. And I hope that you guys please get together and do something and pass this.
Thank you, Mr. LaGuardia. All right, the committee will continue to accept written statements on today's hearing within 5 business days from today, which may be delivered to my office at 238 Archbishop Flores Street, Suite 906 at the DNA building in Naganya. Statements may also be submitted via email to sendotcridgell@teleguam.net. That's send.cridgell@teleguam.net. Or you may send it via fax. I'm sorry, did you sign up? That's why you may approach.
Good evening, Senators. Si Paul Villanueva. I'm 58 years old.
Sir, please speak into the microphone.
Good evening, Senators. I'm not much of a speaker, but my name is Paul Villanueva. I was born and raised here, and I was brought up fishing. I started fishing when I was 5 years old. Well, you're chiliguagua, and that's what they call it. You're taught how to fish. And they won't just give you a spear gun and let you fish. You have to watch and listen to techniques. Well, I got certified in 1981 when I was in Panama, and spearfishing was legal back there. And when I came here to Guam, I started spearfishing. I'm a scuba spear fisherman. Well, I'm like Mr. LaGuardia. I fish for my family. And my family, we were brought up eating fish. I eat fish 4 to 5 times a week. I also do a lot of tsunsuli. I give fish for fiestas, rosaries, local parties, and I donate to the manamcos who can't fish anymore. Well, I like to say that the preserves work, but there's no enforcement at all of the preserves. I've reported out of the, we're good stewards out there. I report every time I see somebody in the preserve. Out of the 10 times I reported, only one time, and it was the Coast Guard that responded. And a couple of Micronesian boats were fishing in the preserve. They were never put in the newspaper, but if that was a local person, you'll be in the front page. I also reported to the agriculture that the markers for the preserves, they were never put up. They're no longer there, so people don't know where they're at. And I like to bring up, you know, like indigenous fishing, or like, you know, our fishing really was devastated when the compact impact was signed into law. It's not only impacted our fishing, it's impacted our way of life, where you cannot leave your house unlocked before because of a home invasion or what. I've seen a lot of changes here in Guam. I'm a scuba spear fisherman. I do not fish from 25 feet onto the reef because there's no fish there. The boats that was mentioned, they're there and they rake up the whole entire reef. But they're not scuba diving, they're free diving. And it's at night. Like I said, the changes I've seen was because of there's no more fish in the shallow water. That's because 5, 6 boats, 6 divers on the boat, they actually rape the stuff. Us, we choose our fish. And if we are concerned about atung and tengisun, I can go daytime, free dive. I got this technique where you just hang in front of the boat, scare the fish into a hole, go down there, free dive, shoot it, but I don't do it. I think they should be safe for our kids and the future generation. If there's a problem with tengisun and atung, we should protect them. We should have a law where nobody can catch them. I know a place where there's schools of atung, but we don't fish that area because I want them to be protected. And it's in the east side. The east side is a real prime area. I told Mr. Nelson when we were on break that, you know, I promised Mr. Dwayne, Manny, that I would not fish in Mr. Nelson's property because, you know, he's complaining that we're wiping out their area, and you know, once I make a promise, I keep my promise. But I see these, if you ever go down to the marina and see their catch, they catch a lot of undersized fish. I guess it's not their island, so they don't care. Huh? They don't care if they wipe out all our resources or what. But us, we choose our size. We don't fish the same area. We rotate our areas. I fish every inch of this island, even when the preserves weren't the preserves. Those are all our prime areas. And only real people can dive up there in the north because the water's rough all the time. It's a natural preserve. And something has to be done about fishing. I don't think scuba, and I went and I interviewed, you know, the places that fill our tanks, and I asked them how many Micronesians scuba spear. And, you know, out of the 3 places where I interviewed, they said there's only 3 guys that are Micronesians that scuba spear. I don't see no 40 or 50 or out there. And I'm out there every day. And I got cuts from Tataga or hanging and stuff. And believe me, Tataga move around at night. And I've been fishing, like I said, I started when I was 5 years old. I was taught how to fish, and I'm very proficient at it. And I want our kids to see the atung and tengisun also. And I can easily go out in the daytime and shoot tengisun and atung, free dive. There's a technique to it where you just chase it around with the boat. It goes into a hole. Put on your free diving gear, go out down there and shoot it. If that's a big concern, we should, you know, put a law to save them for our children. Other than that, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, it's me again, Romanette, Kalani. I just want to
Mr. Kalani, before you continue, I'd like to first allow anyone who has not yet testified yet to go first. Then you may go again after everyone who has not had the chance to testify gets to testify. So sir, I don't believe you testified yet, correct?
Half a day.
Half a day, sir. I don't believe you testified yet. Am I correct?
No, not yet.
Okay.
In
please proceed and begin
this
by
whole week,
introducing
when I
yourself.
heard the announcement, I've been testifying about how ridiculous this bill is. Let me just start with the preserves.
Please, sir, please introduce yourself first before you begin your testimony. Thank you.
Jonathan Dell'osso, and I fish for thousands of families and manongkus here who do not fish. Even 2,000 families. That's what I do. Quality fresh fish. Good size if you want. And from Guam. I'm proud to say the fish we catch is from Guam. The preserves. TADSA enforcement. I recommend that you turn our police department into conservation officers. Every single one of them. That way we'll have, how many officers we have? 500? Or less? 400? We will have that force to protect our preserves. Forget about the 6. Oh yeah, I introduced another 2. Oh yeah, my daughter is a senator. They're putting 2 more. That's not going to cut it. I was fishing last night, and guess who was in the preserve? The fact is, the Chukis, we call them the 13th Fleet. 13 boats, 8 to 4 fishermen minimum. They don't scuba dive. Maybe only 1 tank. But they free dive. What these guys do, they free dive. These guys are so professional. So that's my recommendation for the preserves. And it's such a joke, because guess who responds to the call when we call that there's someone in the preserve? The Coast Guard. You don't see no Gov Guam. They go on the phone. Oh yeah, we got a call that there's a violator or a poacher in the preserve. Then the Coast Guard is the one that comes out. Thank God for the U.S. government. In addition, Agat Marina, Hagatnya Marina, you know how much people are there that we're paying? Those people right now, the rescue people, the police, the officers, they're the next millionaires. See their salaries, how much we're paying them now with the overtime. Those guys are never out. You hardly see them from their office. We can use those people in addition to making all the officers in Guam a conservation officer. Wasted taxpayers' money. And we're here trying to ban, how many? 8 divers? 8 scuba diver fishermen. We're trying to ban them. Do something about the preserves. They're good, they work. And if they don't work, take them out. Open it up. Or even ban all spearfishing. You want to save it for your generations? Ban it. Why do they get to shoot a fish and we can't shoot a fish? If they want to see fish, go down to Tuman. Bula Guihan, that's a preserve. Bula, PD Bomb Hall, beautiful. It's the enforcement. I'm tired of paying taxes and things are not getting done. You should be focusing on the cost of living on Guam. You know how much the fuel costs? How much is the fuel? The west side? Tangisun power plant, PD power plant, the sewer. You see the sewer, the taki that comes down from the sewer plant up here in Harmon or Dedido? I get sewer treatment, Namu Falls. Every time a heavy rain comes, oh, the taki comes out. Have you seen that? And now you're blaming the scuba fishermen? When they built the Agate-Umatic Road, up to 30 to 60 feet of silt, ruined Arcedi Bay, Sela Bay. And guess who's doing something about it? The military. They planted over 50,000 trees. What's Guam doing about it? They planted 50,000 trees. I take the scientists out there so they can do the silt thing, but they need more time to test it. That's Gov Guam in charge of that road. Ruined. Take care of the taki. You see, you go to Home Depot, you see, the rows of bleach, car wash, detergent. Where do you think that goes? And you're blaming the scuba fishermen. We fish for a livelihood, not fun and games. We don't join contests to go over to Yap. Oh, beautiful fish over there. Palau, Tinian, Rhoda. You know, if it was so beautiful down there, why are the people coming here to work and come to the United States and earn a living? Let me check what's next. I don't know, but one of the major legislations that came out of here, I'm just disgusted because it's killing our kids. It's okay for adults, but our kids. And now, same thing. It's hurting our kids because there's more than my store, there's 25 plus people who have a job. That's what they need. They need a job to work. They know how to fish. Are you going to retrain them? Is there a program? Okay, we're going to ban scuba diving. Anything involved with that business, who cares? We should just close some of the restaurants here. There's too many restaurants. How do you feel? Someone coming to you and saying, close that business. That business is not important. Every job is important. That's capitalism. This is 2019. People work many GovGuam jobs. Do they have time to go fish? They rely on us to fish. Have these guys ever, do they have a store where we can go and buy their fish? Oh no, it's just for their family. We have a store. It's called capitalism, not socialism. It's freedom. Of course, we need regulations, but this is ridiculous. West Side, Atan. Oh, the taki that goes there. And you blame the fishermen. Look at the boat basin. Besides how, the silt has gone into there. Look at the signs. You can't even read where the preserve is. That's our government, our taxpayers. It's such a joke. Let me tell you that. Department of Agriculture, conservation officers. It's such a joke how much thousands of dollars we put to them, give them, and they can't even fix the signs in the marina or put the signs out in the preserve. Can't even read it. That's why the Chukis go there. Oh, we can do anything we want. There's no sign. Go out to the marina and see. Can't even read it. Anyways, I fully support Manny Duenas and his recommendations. That guy's a really smart guy. And it's not going to make us fight each other. You're a scuba tank, I'm a free diver. We need leaders that can bring us together, who really recognize our economy, the challenges we have. Stop taking rights away from us to serve another. You already took the preserves and we agreed to that. Stop putting regulations. I was up there in the Department of Agriculture. They harassed my store for selling a lily. We're the only ones who sell lily here. They told me I had to get a permit. But when I went to their office, they were all there in the office, getting paid. They should be in the beaches. Oh, the areas and be watching. Why are they in the office? Tired of this corruption. Government. I just have to mention, but his bracelet is a turtle bracelet, Mr. Corona, and that's against the law. Anyways, who knows? We need to test it. Thank you. God bless. And why do we need to fight? Stop fighting. Stop fighting. We need leaders who can get us together. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just to be clear, you mentioned a couple times during your testimony about a store or my store. Are you the owner
Machalik
of
Fish Market in Agate.
Machalik Fish Market in Agate? Okay. So you are the owner of that
Owner
store?
and fishermen.
Okay.
I have employees. More than 25 people are attached to that, and they have jobs. So if you stop us, of course, there's so many things we can do. But that's going to hurt a lot of children.
Okay.
They're so poor already how it is. And I'm willing to sign a check to them, pay them every week or every 2 weeks. This whole summer, the kids came. They didn't go to Underwater World. I don't know who tipped them off, but they came over and they saw, oh, the fish. We have posters. And that's what we do. Come and see what we do. We're not destructive. Let me tell you, I just laugh because the true fishermen catch fish. And the ones who complain they can't catch fish are not fishermen. It's the way it is. It's either you're a fisherman or not. But I respect them. Fun and games, cool. Promotions, whatever. But don't ban me. Otherwise, we'll just say ban everything, right? The sky's gonna fall? Global warming? Ban everything. For the generation, stop eating fish, import it, eat canned tuna. And let's see how they're gonna feel. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else that has yet to testify who would like to testify? If not, Mr. Kalani, is that correct? You may proceed.
Yes, thank you. My name is Romanette. Kalani. Just want to say a few statements to maybe help improve the restoration of the fish population. First, I think fishermen need to self-regulate, and they do that by avoiding the catching female fish. If they're fishermen, they can figure it out. They know how to recognize it. Avoid overfishing by rotating your fishing frequency and areas. That's what I used to do when I started hitting the east side. We were doing that a lot. We were regulating ourselves by rotating our fishing areas. And we come back to that place 6 months later, and the fish population is still the same. Because the fish population replenishes itself if given enough time. Just like the preserves. If the preserves are enforced, they'll work. Also, fishermen should catch only the large or adult fish of their species, of their kind. And this would help leave the small ones alone and have a chance to replenish the stock. On large fish like a tuong and tangisan, I have one idea. I don't know, it might be kind of far out there, but why not collect fish embryos to fertilize our fish reserves? I think that's not too far off a reality. I think marine biologists could probably figure out a way to do that. We got resources for that. They got large fish in the underwater world. They got a lot of fish over in the Philippines and Indonesia. If they could go over there and, I don't know, they can fly over some fish embryos and do something with it here, they could probably restock the fish population of those large species a lot faster. I don't know, it's an idea that popped into my head. I never heard anyone say anything of it, but why can't they do that? Another thing is we need to emphasize this also the greatest fish preserves. We need fish preserves with enforceable laws to affect everyone, not just the locals. It will not work if we can't have enforceable laws on fish preserves. Because right now, I don't see it being enforced. And it was brought up that tataga don't swim at night, but I've been fishing since 1977, and I see tataga move around. Yeah, with the tanks. Without tanks too. I've been a free diver since 77 to 84. And I've been no, because when I'm swimming on top, before I even get to the bottom, they're already moving. They move with the currents. No, tataga move. The only time they stop is if they're trying to duck into a crack or a hole to evade capture, to evade you, to evade being seen by you. And tataga move. Tataga move whether you're using a tank or not. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to provide testimony? All right. Please state your name for the record.
My name's William Natan. I'm from Ridgell. I grew up down there my whole life. I'm 22 years old, and I was raised to spearfish. And I was also raised on stories down in my village and what it was like back in the 80s, back in the 70s. Kenny Pierre, Joe Hobson's, all those guys, my dad knew. He was a fisherman and raised me to be one as well. And in those days, he tells me stories of how you could go out and you could fill your cooler before you even get to Fact B1 or you get to Fact B2. You'd have a full cooler mahi. It's not like that anymore. Things are changing. Our generation needs this ban. We need to take a step in the right direction. Mostly because we're against a frame of mind that has seen things differently. They have seen those reefs back when they were plentiful. Nowadays, we don't see that. I have a hard time taking my friends out who want to free dive, who want to see the reef. I have a hard time showing them what a healthy reef looks like, and that should not be the case. I think today is a day that this subject should be contemplated a lot more thoroughly. Not because it's going to affect somebody's livelihood, because as a whole, we have to look at it as this is going to affect our island, all of our people, not just you, not just because you own a fish store, not just because you're in charge of, a whole fleet of people who are underneath your co-op. I think this should be looked at as an opportunity to set a tone for my generation, for the younger generations, long after everybody in this room has passed, to be able to go out and see a lot more healthier version of Guam. And currently, that's why this topic is out here. It's because we don't see that. Our island is not healthy. And I don't believe that it's because I'm a bad spear fisherman. And I don't think it's because, somebody who's learning how to spearfish has to have fish around. It's just, sorry, I digress. It's just harder for us to get out there and shoot anything when there's nothing around. And a lot of that is really evident today. There's really nothing out there for us to go after. Going back to the stories that I was told of Beely, I spearfish Beely every now and then, and yeah, it's really dead. It's dead inside the reef. You step out over that ledge and you'll find stuff, but they're down at 60 and 70 feet. And I'm not pointing at scuba spearfishing. I'm not pointing at any group in particular, but I'm saying that right now is the time to make a move in the right direction. And the only way we're going to do that is to put away what we think is right and what has been bred into us in the past and kind of adopt a new mind frame and address things with a little bit more science, less hocus pocus. Who cares if the Tatagat swims around at night? I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about our future, and our future matters. Whether that damn Tatagat swims, it's really has nothing to do with how many fish my kids, our kids, will see in the future. It really comes down to what we think is going to improve our situation out here. And it feels like we're alone because a lot of other islands have made that step. And now I know that with this bill coming up again and with the opportunity to set it in place, now I know that, we might actually join the crowd and protect our home. And I'm looking forward to that. I'd really like to see that. Let me introduce myself some more. I spearfish a lot. I was raised doing it down in Mauricio. I've done best, hit the backside of Cocos, Beely, Sela, Seti, all these places. I've been there. I've seen them. The conditions aren't great. Only the ones next to the preserves, and those are really, really scary to go to, But those preserves do work. I can say that my catch does improve when I'm on the fringes of a preserve, outside of the preserve. But that being said, I think it really should come down to what we think's right. And I'm sure you senators believe what's right and believe that we should have a pretty decent future, and maybe as good as some of the past that these people have had. I'm sure they have seen myriads of fish back in their day. I'd love to see those schools of Tulung. I'd love to see it, not to shoot, just to marvel at what they are. I mean, they're massive, beautiful fish, and I don't think we see that today at all. I love somebody to take me to the veins of a Tulung that they talk about, and I'm sure it's some secret, but till every kid can see that without having to go to a secret spot, then there's a problem. Anyways, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. If there's any other testimony?
No, I'm just a bit concerned about this Atuhong information. Any of you guys know in this room how much an atuho eats in coral a year? Anybody in this room can tell me? I'll tell you, 5 tons of coral a year. And then I just heard earlier there's coral bleaching. So the corals are dead. I got 17 cows left at my farm. I had 21 in the beginning of this year. The rest jumped the fence. And I never got him back. So at the end of the day, animals aren't stupid. So if you think you're going to see animals where there's no food, then we better really think about it. So at the end of the day, I'd really love all this further discussion because I'll debate the whole scientific committee in this room, and I'll offer it to you, Mr. Chairman, by myself, a brainless idiot, and all the doctors and PhDs and all these people you can find on a group basis against me. Because I'm really tired of the propaganda and the misinformation. Atun eats 5 tons of coral a year. A tangisun, after 70 pounds, when we used to test them, becomes ciguatoxic. That's the reason why you don't see it at our market for the last 10 years. So I'm just telling you now, when these guys go and brag about that, because they're the ones that Facebook all the big fish, you don't see the scuba diver Facebooking anything. But they brag about their big fish because you're perpetuating that type of honor and respect and cultural relevance by banning scuba because you have no inclination as to the real word of culture. I believe in culture. I believe that you don't preserve culture. I believe you perpetuate it. And the only way you perpetuate it and the language is continue doing what you're doing, but in a reasonable manner. And if you think there's an unreasonable thing happening here, I really wonder, is this the approach? Because like I said, I'm willing to sit down with you guys and work it out the right way. That's all I have to say. Thank you for cutting me off earlier. I had about another 2 hours. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the committee will continue to accept written statements on today's hearing within 5 business days from today, which may be delivered to my office at 238 Archbishop Flores Street, Suite 906 at the DNA building in Hagåtña. Statements may also be submitted via email to sen.cridgell@teleguam.net. That's SENDOTCRIDGELL@teleguam.net. Or you may send it via fax at 671-475-4768. This hearing is now adjourned. It is 7:30 in the evening. Thank you.